Slap bass is just a bunch of rhythmic tricks performed via interplay between the two hands, like this. Now that one's the fourth of 4 slap bass lines I'm going to teach you in this lesson, so stick around to the end. The first one is Flea style double stops. This is the bass line Freaky Styly. Now, double stops are just when you play 2 notes at the same time. And when we slap them, we're going to use index and middle fingers. In this case, I've got frets 5, the G and the C, on the D and the G strings, just barring that first finger down onto both the strings. So just playing sort of fingertip on the 5th fret of the D and just backing that first finger down onto the next. And then I've got the index and middle fingers on the D and G strings respectively. Just pull it out. The whole bass line is this. 16th note attached to a dotted 8th, that's that rhythm. We're going pop on the 7th fret A on the D string, immediately followed by a slap on the open A. Then we've got the double stops there. It's a very hypnotic bass line, it just goes round and round that. But this is the interval of a 4th. Perfect 4th, but you can just call it a 4th. This is in the key of A minor. So if you look at A minor pentatonic, you've got lots of 4ths there. You can make up lots of double stop slap bass lines using that. And another good shape to use, especially in rock, is the good old power chord shape. It's not really a chord. Chord is 3 notes played together. This is 2, so it's technically a double stop. I'm going A on the 7th fret of the D string, 2 frets across, 1 string down. The E is the 5th away from that. That's a power chord shape. They sound really good with slap bass. Let's move on to the next. This is Marcus Miller style 32nd notes. Now, just 16th notes on their own look complicated enough, so when you get to 32nds, it gets a bit scary. 16th notes are when you have 16 beats in a bar of 4. So 32nd is double that. So you can only really perform them at slower tempos. So at this tempo, 16th notes are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 E and a da 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 da. Okay, so double that is digga 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 digga. And you hear Marcus Miller do this a fair bit. What we're doing here is just ghosting everything. That's the pulse, those are the beats. So digga 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 digga. It's just really 2 30-second notes, that's it. Just a word on muting here. I'm even putting my thumb over the top, but I'm just touching the strings lightly so that you'll get nothing, just a percussive sound. Although you can obviously, you can play notes as well. But let's have a look at this. So it's very similar to the double stop idea where we're using index and middle fingers to perform 2 plucks now, or pops. And it's like what drummers do. It's called a flam, and it's basically that. And a lot of this is thinking like a drummer. So it's 2 pops, and then it's this rhythmic figure, which is slap, pop, slap, slap, pop, slap. When you play slap bass, you come to realize that the interplay between the 2 hands is often what gets you fast, impressive kind of stuff. All of that was 2 hands doing 2 things. But here, it's just this hand doing everything. Now, a couple of things you can do. You can put your thumb over the top to mute the E string, or you can choose to keep your thumb and your hand quite close. I sometimes put my little finger against the body of the bass to keep everything much steadier and to be more accurate. There are loads of different ways of slapping, and none of it is wrong. If it sounds good to you, then do that. But this is how I'm doing it. And since my hand is closer, I can actually just sort of rest this part of it on the E string, which I'm not playing at the moment. Now, since I'm muting everything with this hand, in this particular example, doesn't make much sense to mute at all here. So that's really the rhythm we're going. I'll twist around a bit so you can see this. So it's just before the beat lands you're hitting those. I'm just experimenting with the exact same rhythmic figure with the same technique, just on different notes. E and the A, frets 2 of the D and the G strings. I want to get rid of that open string. I'm going to do that here now. So fret 5 of the E string, that's where A is. Make sure you know your notes everywhere. And the fact that that's an octave and that's a fifth. That's what I'm doing here. All of these examples you can mix and match because all the notes are in the same key. Victor Wooten has given us loads of amazing techniques, not just in slap. One of them is called open hammer pluck, where you play an open string, you hammer down, kind of from nowhere, and then you pluck. This is a slight variation on that, where we have fretted notes. We're going thumb, hammer, pluck, just on A's, 5th fret of the E string and 1 octave higher. So that's the movement. We're just doing that over and over again. So a thumb on the A, and then this is the hard bit. I'm using my little finger. You could use your third, but I like using the little finger because it lessens the stretch for me in an octave and it keeps this wrist from bending too much. What you want to do is to make that as loud as your thumb or your pop, or getting close to it. Just a quick word, by the way. This is a 1975 Fender Jazz, quite a good sort of slap bass really, because it's got these 2 jazz bass pickups. I've got them both equally up, the tone fully on, and I've just changed my strings. Where is it? Using these. These are Elite's Player Series, they're called. They're nickel plated, but when you play slap music, you really need that snap, that top end that naturally comes from bright strings. The strings that were just on this before were just dead, and I like the old sound of old strings, but it wasn't quite right for slap, so I had to change it for this lesson. I'm actually recording this without any EQ or compression, but I probably will add some in afterwards. Compression is a good effect to use. It's a dynamic effect, dynamic sound processor. There are lots of differences in volume, in like that, and that, and that. So a compressor can help even those out, although I would urge you to try and work on your technique before you do that. Don't rely on something else to even out your volume. Rely on yourself and your technique to do that. Back to the exercise. Here we go. So you've got your thumb, hammer on, and then you've got your pop. Have a look at this hand a second. And in fact, this hand, there's a coordination going on. And a lot of slap is this sort of movement of coming down into the strings and then having your popping finger already under a string before it comes up. And it's this down, up movement. If you play with a plectrum, that's another place where you see that. Down, up, and it's just about being really efficient. Even though I'm not doing any popping here, if I want to, I've just practiced so that you practice to get your finger underneath before it comes up. And And everything is very mechanical. And that's what you want with your technique. You want to figure out the mechanics and how you can make everything flow. Let's do the whole thing. Right, let's look at the last one, Mark King 16th note triplets. I remember hearing him do this when I first started learning bass, and I just thought, I don't know what that is, sounds impossible, I'll never be able to do it. But years later, you sort of break things down a bit. This is another frightening looking rhythm that isn't as bad as you may first think. So you have a bracket with a 6, and that refers to 16th note triplets. When you have two beams, like you have here, you have 16th notes. And when you have a bracket and 6, it's 16th note triplets. You have a group of 4 of them here, and each group of 6 takes place in the space of 1 beat. So it is quite quick. So it's like this. If you're tapping or clicking your fingers like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. 16th notes would be this. 1E and a da 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 da. This is da 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 da. It's all about 3. It's 3 twice. And this is how we're going to break it down. We're just going to do one thing over and over again, and it's this. Just that. So if you look at the first, again, I'm doing this thing of just muting. We've got no notes here, although you can apply this to notes. I've got a pluck or a pop or a pull, all means the same thing. Actually, pluck is, we'll call it a pop. After that, got this. Now this is notated perhaps not correctly because it's a bit different to your Victor Wooten hammer down. This is more of a left hand pat. Okay. Sometimes when you come to mute a string like this, to touch a note and stop it, you want to do it very cleanly and make no noise. Here, I want a completely dead sound. It's part of the technique. Okay. After that, we've got just, you're coming down and doing that slap. And it's that thing again that I was just talking about coming up and then down. When you want to learn anything in any style that's fast and tricky and technically too difficult for you right now, the trick is to slow it down, be patient with yourself and just build up. So we're going to go really slow here. And it's just that over and over again. When you stick 2 of them together, it's this. Okay, and you can speed it up to that, but let's just go back again. Not really bothering about much timing here. I'm focusing on mechanics. Since this is the hardest thing that we've played today, I'll just stop on this a second. Okay, that middle one needs to be louder. That's a better sound. I'm releasing pressure a little bit. Don't want to hammer on a harmonic. So I am putting my finger here just to keep everything very consistent. When I'm getting faster like that, I'm just really trying to concentrate on relaxing and loosening everything up. If it's too stiff, it's not going to work. Also not moving very far up or down. These strings are 45 to 105. I have got a really, I usually use my Ibanez. It's over here. I tried to shield it myself with some shielding tape and it just started to do some weird things. I actually do have another vintage Ibanez that I bought months ago. I love that bass. I'm going to put 40s on that, 40, 60, 80, 100. They feel really light and you can fly around on them. I'm going to lower the action a bit, but not too much. If you're slapping, sometimes your pickup's too high and you hit those pole pieces and it sounds horrible. So the setup is key in slap as well. If your action is too high, you're not going to be able to finesse any of these techniques together. So I think that'll do for now, but you can download that PDF if you want another lesson on slap. I'll put it right here. But thanks very much for watching. Do give this video a like and the channel a subscribe. That really helps me keep these free lessons going for you. Thanks very much. See you next time.